here physically in the council room, and we have Josh online.
Can we do an audio check? Can you hear me? I can hear you. I just want to make sure.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So Josh Polson is online. Ty Cameron is online as well. I'd like to congratulate him on his new baby. They have a new little baby boy. But he's attending online. And like I said, we'd like to excuse Brent Speth. He will not be here tonight. So I have asked Carrie to say the prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be by Janelle Seeley. So if you'll please again.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our eternal Father in heaven, we bow our heads and we express gratitude for this free country within which we live. We are grateful to live in the city of Providence. We're grateful for the leadership that we have. We're grateful for the beautiful fall weather that we've enjoyed. We're grateful for the community that blesses us. We pray that we can have peace in our hearts as we meet. Please bless that we can be mindful of the needs of the citizens of this city. We pray that thou will bless and watch over those who are suffering and those who are in need throughout our city and throughout the world. We offer this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you both for the contribution. Let's do council reports, and Josh, let me start with you.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add tonight. I'm kind of under the weather, so I'm just participating the best I can. So thank you though.
Hope you feel better. Carrie?
Yeah, I have been a little under the weather myself, but a couple of weeks ago, I spent a few days going to conferences. I took some notes that I wanted to pull up for my council report. Not that fast. I went to the Women in Business Chamber Conference as a representative of Providence City, and also to the Cash Summit Conference. It was good to be there with a few members of staff. I also went to the mental health summit that was held here locally, and I didn't go officially as a representative of Providence City, but I wanted to mention that because I think that this new local nonprofit, Pause Wellness, is something to keep our eyes on and to be aware of the mental health crisis that is in our nation and is affecting our citizens and maybe even some of us. Their mental health summit that took place a few weeks ago was fabulous, and of the 3 full day events that I went to, I found it actually to be the most actionable and really helpful as an individual and as a council member. So I recommend it. It should be an annual event. And so that's what actually there's one other thing with the youth council. This Saturday on the 18th, we're going to be helping with some Sub for Santa. We're going to be moving a whole storage unit full of presents from one location to another to start getting Sub for Santa ready for the season. So, and if anyone wants to come help at 10 o'clock on Saturday.
And you're getting ready too for the tree lighting.
Yep, we'll be there.
And the tree lighting will be on
the first Thursday of the month.
I think it's December 7th.
Okay. Hey. Jeff?
Met with Ryan the other day. It's always great to meet with Ryan. He gives me good updates and gets me thinking about what I need to be doing. So, just for the next month with the new year coming, I'll just be thinking about maybe new areas that I'd like to work in and new goals. Don't have any right now though. Just responding to citizen emails, and to any of those citizens out there listening to this wonderful, exciting YouTube meeting. If you want to send me emails, I'd love to get them. If you have any advice for me or how I can do a better job for you in this position, let me know. Because right now the room is packed and it's not really, but anyway, that's all.
Yes, we encourage citizen participation, don't we?
Forget your name.
Hal.
Al. Hal.
We appreciate him coming and, honestly, Hal, it's nice.
I don't
to-
want to say no one's here. Hal is here.
Yes, Hal is here. And he's always good to compliment us on what we do, so thank you. We appreciate that. Janelle?
I feel like I'm in the theme of under the weather. I also had a lot of sickness between last meeting and this meeting, but I did go down to the Legislative Policy Committee with League of Cities and Towns on Monday. Discussed a bunch of stuff with Ryan, and just ramping up to legislative session in January. We're gonna be watching a lot of things closely with land use and broadband and all kinds of topics coming, and try to do our best to run interference for Providence with the state. So,
Great, thank you. We're trying to keep the camel's nose out of the tent. When the legislature is concerned, they have a tendency to want to get their nose in where they really shouldn't be mandating that we do certain things, because every community is different. So we'll be bringing you updates as we meet with the Legislative Policy Committee. And we might need your help. We might want to ask others to call their representatives, because not a lot of people get involved in that process either. And that it affects everyone's lives. Just wanted to report that the car show generated about $1,600, and that we donated that to Little Lambs. And Little Lambs is an organization that provides diapers to families. And the night that Shania and I went over and delivered the check, they had just gotten a semi-load of diapers. That's a lot of diapers, a semi-load. 2 days before, they were already half gone. They have to pay the shipping on it, and it was a $5,000 shipping to get all those diapers here, but it was thousands of dollars worth of diapers as well. And so they used the donation that we gave them to pay for that, for part of that shipment. But and while I was there, they have cars that drive up and they give them diapers and wipes and sometimes toys for other kids. And sometimes they give feminine products to people who just don't have the money for those. And people cannot go to work and take their children to daycare if they don't have diapers. And so it's an incredible service that is offered to the citizens of our valley. So anyway, we got to participate in that. Land Conservation has given away $2,100,000 to conserve land. One of them was here in Cache Valley. But the real story is that we're leveraging other private monies to help conserve land throughout the state, so it doesn't get gobbled up into into development. We have a lot of land here in Utah, although a lot of it is federal land that we don't get to tax. But the Northern Utah Manufacturers Excellence put on a conference through the chamber, and there were about 160 people that attended, and they heard information about how to make their businesses better. And I was on the committee to put that together. And Ryan and I have been working on a grant that's coming through economic development, or economic excellence, I think is what it's called, out of the governor's office.
Economic opportunity.
Opportunities.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get the liquidation paid for. So that's due Friday. So I've been trying to get letters, and Ryan is putting the dialogue together and the budgets, and so hopefully we can get that paid for and then use that money to do other things for our economic vitality. And so there are a lot of things going on in the city, a lot of projects being finished up, but we're doing good things to help our citizens out. So thank you all for your reports. I will, on the next item, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of October 18th, 2023.
A motion that we approve the minutes.
Okay, got a motion?
Second,
By Carrie. Any discussion?
I did send Ty some feedback on my report,
Okay.
just a few small
To
changes.
update a little bit. Yeah, great, thank you. So we've got a motion and a second, all in favor?
I,
I said aye. Couldn't make
Oh,
sure.
okay, sorry, we didn't hear that.
That's okay. It's hard. I'll say it after everybody to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Okay, any opposed? Motion carries. We'll close that item and go to public comment. Prior to the meeting, Scarlett told me she hadn't seen anything posted online.
Still nothing.
Okay, no comment from the public. Anyone? Al? Come on up to the mic.
Al Hanson. I just wanted to make the city council and Rob and is it Shaler Gunnell? It's the parks guy. Okay.
Yes.
I have a friend that goes up and plays on the disc golf course up by the park up there. And he's noticed several times in the last couple of weeks, there have been groups of kids up there doing some kind of nature thing or whatever. Anyway, he said there's a lot of places up there where when they throw the discs, they're throwing them to a blind area. And when they throw the discs, they don't know that there's other people up there in places that they can't see. And I think it would be a good idea for someone to look into that situation and maybe put up some warning signs that
For the public,
yeah, for the public, so that they know what that is up there and that there is some danger involved. So he wanted me to bring that up here at city council meeting. So
Thank
you guys could take a look at that and see if there's something that needs to be done or could be done.
I love it. You brought a problem and a solution.
Okay,
That's the best. Thank you, Hal.
thank you.
Okay, since we don't have any other comments, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the meeting, and we'll go to item number 2, audit presentation and review. Mike Miles is here from ACOC Miles and Associates. The CPAs, they'll present to the city council their findings and recommendations for their audit. The Providence City Council will review, discuss, and may take action on approving the city's annual audit review. So Mike, we'll turn the time over to you. Thank
All
you
right.
for.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, the report's about 60 pages and but we're only going to look at about 12 pages. So we're off Let's start on page 18. There's two presentation types and there's some narratives in there, but we're just going to stick with the budget method presentation. And that starts on page 18. I'll try to just highlight what I think is the most important for the council and draw some comparisons to the prior year so we can see changes from the prior year. On page 18, this is where what we call the governmental funds. There's a general fund and then there's a capital projects fund. The capital projects fund is basically used to accumulate savings for large projects. The assets of the general fund were about 5.7 million, about 1.8 million of it was cash. And then the cash in the capital projects fund was about 3.2 million, so almost 5.1 million between the two. Both columns are essentially available for government functions. So the 5,081,000 of cash last year was about 4.6 million. So that's an increase of about 500,000. So pretty nice increase in cash. The rest are restricted cash balances and receivables, and those are also an increase from the prior year. Thanks, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
18. There you go. Perfect. The liabilities of the town, of the city, are quite similar to the prior year and just routine payables at June 30. Accounts payable of about 270,000. Customer deposits and whatnot about 119,000. And then deferred inflows of resources are property taxes that are accrued and in your accounts receivable, but are not available until basically this month and next month when they start to pour in from the county. Fund balances towards the end is basically the net worth of the city. It's your assets less your liabilities. There's a significant portion of restricted fund balances, which are reserved cash balances for road impact fees, the cemetery, the library, and the parks. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. And then the unassigned or assigned for capital projects is the amounts that are available to the city. In the general fund, the unassigned fund balance was 2,073,000. Last year it was 1,484,000. So that's up about 600,000. And so that's very good. The capital projects amount that's available to it, 3,197,000. That's quite similar to last year. It's down just a hair, but overall quite a significant increase. So we feel like the city is in pretty darn good financial condition. It's got plenty of cash. There's no debt to the governmental funds. And so at June 30. And so it's in good shape right now. Any questions to this point? Let's go to 19, which is the revenue and expenses of the governmental funds, which is the general fund and the capital projects. Total revenues were just over 6.5 million in the general fund and approximately 846,000 in the capital projects, for a total of about 7.3 million. Last year, the total revenues were about 6.4 million, so they were up about $1 million. Total expenditures in the general fund for all departments, which include all your public safety, highways, roads, parks and recreation, cemetery, and then general government. Total expenditures this year were just over 4.9 million. Last year, it was approximately 4.2 million. So there's about a 700,000 increase. The single largest increase was, I'm just looking at last year's report, which I have on screen. Oh, highways and public improvements were the single biggest factor in that increase. Other financing sources, impact fees were just over $250,000. There was a $900,000 transfer to capital projects fund. And if we go to the third line from the bottom, there was a net change in your fund balance, which is basically a net income to a city of $917,000. Last year, that net increase was $230,000. So it's $700,000 more than the prior year. So pretty darn good year for the general fund. The capital projects fund, it had about 846,000 in revenue, almost just over 1.8 million in expenditures. Majority of that was in capital outlay, which were projects for roads and equipment purchased for the city. It did receive a transfer from the general fund. So if we go towards the bottom, net change in fund balance, 62,901 deficit. So virtually a break even. The two combined were a positive 854,000 in the combined total column for net income. Last year, that was a deficit of 291,000. So more than $1.1 million improvement from the prior year. So quite a substantial increase to your accumulated reserves. So pretty good job there. Any questions, council? Okay. Page 22, we'll talk about the 4 enterprise funds. These are the business type funds of the city. There's the culinary water, wastewater, stormwater, and the fiber. The culinary water at the end of the year had about $5.7 million unrestricted. The wastewater had about 4.8 million, stormwater just over $500,000, and the fiber had about 648,000. Just looking at some comparisons, totaling about 11.7 million. Last year, the 4 funds combined had about 10.8 million. So nearly all of them improved. In fact, every single fund improved in their cash balance from the prior year. So pretty cool there. Restricted cash, there in the non-current asset section, 507,000. That was slightly more. This is for debt service reserves. The wastewater had restricted cash of 383,000. And the fiber fund had about 3.9 million restricted. And we'll talk about these restricted funds later on in my presentation. Capital assets changed quite a bit, and so we'll talk about those in just a bit. Liabilities, in the liability section on page 22, total current liabilities 115,000. For the culinary, the wastewater had 162,000. Stormwater had $26. And then the current liabilities of the fiber fund were about 151,000. Those liabilities compared to the cash balances are small, and your ratio, there's ratios that we can look at to evaluate whether there's good financial strength. And you're sitting on current assets of about 5.9 million and current liabilities are just over 100,000 for most of these funds. Those ratios are superb. So most cities would love to have those kind of ratios. Non-current liabilities in the water fund is just over 1.8 million, and that's because of a revenue bond that the water fund has. And we'll talk a little bit about the progress on your debt. The other funds, except fiber, don't have any debt, and so that's really good. And then the fiber fund has about 7.8 million of debt, and the payments don't start there until fiscal year 2025. And we'll talk about that briefly in a second. So all in all, your balance sheet is excellent. So let's jump to page 23, which is your income statement for these business type funds. I'm just gonna, rather than make you fall asleep on me, we're just gonna look at the net income of each fund. See revenue less expenses, and that's the third row from the bottom. The culinary water fund had about a $587,000 profit, which is great. The wastewater fund, 554,000 profit. Stormwater, 104,000, and the fiber network had a profit of 554,000. It is important to note on the fiber fund that about 80% of that net income came from an ARPA grant that was received, the 460,384. So without that ARPA money, there would have been about a $94,000 profit. Regarding the fiber fund, the $94,000 profit is probably going to grow as the as the connections continue to increase throughout these coming years as the system is laid out. In 2025, there is your first annual loan payment. The principal on that loan is $240,000. And so that's the goal, is that your net income and your cash flow is enough to make that annual loan payment. So the page 24 is a cash flow statement for these four. There's some really good information here. Sometimes net income can be misleading. You could have a net income, but your loan payments can be so significant, or your capital outlay so significant, that even though you have a net income on the books, your cash may be diminishing year after year. But that's not the case for Providence City. And the water fund.
Mike,
Yes, Ryan, jump.
looks like Josh has a question.
Oh, fire away.
Yeah. Sorry. Maybe we could stop briefly at each statement or something in case we have a question. Maybe
Okay.
Ryan, are we making interest payments on the fiber debt right now? Or are we paying interest? on that
Yes, we're
current-
paying interest only payments right now during
Okay.
construction. But we'll
Sorry,
pick
I
up
just
the.
wanted to verify that.
Yeah,
Josh, the interest on that debt is about $180,000 a year.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I know the payment schedule doesn't start. I was just curious if we were making interest only payments. So thank you.
Yeah, that could be horrendous if the interest was piling up and was due, after 3 years of accrued interest on your first payment. So about 6 lines from the bottom, there's a net increase or decrease in cash on the statement of cash flows. So the water fund, it had a surplus cash, but increased its cash balances by about $225,000. That was after its annual loan payment. Go to the middle section, the cash flow from capital and related financing. There was a cash surplus after a loan payment of $54,000 and $684,000 of capital asset activity. So that means if you take away the capital outlay, if there was no capital outlay in a given year, just the loan payment, there'd be about, what's that work out to? About $900,000+ cash surplus. So that's nice for the community to have that cash surplus each year so that it can make improvements to the infrastructure without having to borrow debt. The wastewater fund, it has no debt. It had a surplus of about $696,000. It doesn't, like I said, didn't have any debt and only put in about $33,000 into capital outlay. The stormwater fund had a surplus of $119,000 and no debt, no capital outlay. It did receive a small grant, $21,000. So it's looking good. Its cash increased from $421,000 to $541,000. So that's about a 20% improvement on cash. The fiber fund, like I said, without the ARPA money, it had a net income of about $94,000. It's been pouring money into the system installation. So it had a decrease in cash, which basically came from its escrow. Its decrease of cash was almost $1.8 million. Ryan, do you anticipate any problems getting enough subscribers to make that annual loan payment?
we're making good progress. We have over 915. So from the end of this one, we've increased quite a bit. We're definitely watching that number.
Cool, excellent. Any questions? Excellent, thank you guys. Let's go ahead and jump to page 34, page 34, if you would, please. Oh, yeah, Pete, report page 34. Thanks, Ryan. So this just highlights the cash and investments of the city at the end of the year. Amounts in checking are about 9.6 million. You've got investments of about 5.1 million, and deposits in the Utah PTIF are approximately 9 million. So you just want to monitor that. PTIF is earning 5.2, 5.3%. So just try to maximize your holdings there the best you can. And like I said, let me jump to last year that I've got open. Last year, there was 23.8 million. So overall, your cash balance is the same. Like I said, most of the funds had an increase in cash, a substantial increase in cash, but the fiber fund was pulling out a couple $1 million out of its escrow account. And so that's the reason for the cash staying the same with most of the funds and improving. Questions? Okay, let's jump to the page 36 on the report. So this is a summary of the capital asset activity. Construction during the year, which was largely, I think, roads and streets and some equipment. There towards the top, 1,526,000. There was some land rights activity of 4,700. There were some projects that were closed and put into service of 2,083,000. So at June 30, construction in progress was about 603,000. So those are various streets projects that were just not done at the end of the year. So total infrastructure improvements that were put into service was almost 2.1 million, like I just mentioned. Machinery and equipment that was purchased was 161,000. And then we have your annual depreciation, which flows through a different report that is not entirely necessary for a government entity that just evaluates it based on budget. So that's kind of highlighting the improvements to the city, excluding the 4 business type funds. The next page, page 37. These are capital asset activity related to the water funds and then the fiber. There was almost 2,954,000 of construction activity in the addition column. Most of that was for the fiber network, and then there was some retirements. 2,434,000 was closed projects that was put into service for your water system. So the 2.4 million was closed and then added to your culinary water system and started being depreciated for 2,384,000. So quite a significant increase, approximately a 20% increase to the book value or the historical asset value of your culinary water system. So it's a big year there. And then we have annual depreciation for all the funds of 586,000. Any questions on asset activity? Okay. Page 38, the next page, reflects the long-term debt of Providence City. Like I said, the roads and all the governmental funds have zero debt, which is exceptional and quite unique with the other cities that we do work for. There are 2 loans at June 30. There was a water fund loan that's going to mature in 2051. Its interest rate is 1.5%, which 4 or 5 years ago was normal, but now it's a bargain, considering you're earning 5+% at the PTIF. At the end of the year, there was 1,883,000 due on that, and an annual payment of 55,000. That annual payment is just a small portion of the city's water fund cash flow. So I don't see a concern there unless there's another new project online that's going to borrow a significant amount of debt. The other large debt is the one that you're familiar with, 7,750,000. This loan matures in 2048. There was no activity on that except for the annual interest payments. I think they're semi-annual interest payments. The first payment on that loan is 240,000 in fiscal year 2025. And so that's what you're shooting for, to be able to make your annual loan payments to cover that debt so it can operate at a break even or a positive cash flow. There in the middle of the page is a 5-year schedule with 5-year groupings thereafter, 4-year debt payments for both the water fund and the fiber fund. And you can see in 2025 when the fiber debt kicks in and goes up, and then you can see that. Any questions?
I just wanted to add, so when we pay the fiber, when it becomes 240. Right now we're at 94. I'm trying to remember the 94. 94,000 is what we're gaining from fiber right now.
The net income in the most recent fiscal year end was about 94,000.
So our goal is to make sure that we can cover that 240 when we
Yes.
start making payments.
Exactly.
That 94, that comes from the 915 subscribers, just clarifying.
Yeah, at the time that we did this, we wouldn't have had that high of number, so it's grown quite substantially since the audit. So we're on track for, probably 310,000 right now per year, and as we get more subscribers, we're working up to that 450,000 mark. That's interest plus principal. We're currently already paying the interest. Principal kicks in once the construction's done, and so it'll be July of next year that we'd have our first.
So
principal
interest and, so the 240 and the 180 is what we pay each year.
Correct.
They go.
Yeah. So the net income of 94,000 is including the interest expense, but just not loan principal. So,
All right, that's all.
and the subscribers that Ryan mentioned, it's likely that those were added throughout the year and not through the entire year. And so that subscriber number was probably just a snapshot of at June 30 or the current time. Ryan, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's correct. So we're in their construction. We finished, we'll finish mainline construction hopefully this week, but we still have quite a few drops. We still have quite a bit of infrastructure for installs and drops to continue. So we're making progress. We have some that haven't even been turned on yet. And so we're expecting to see that take rate continue to rise. So.
Cool. Thank you, Ryan. Page 39 is just a chart that highlights the amount of cash that's earmarked at the end of the year. So if we jump back to page, you guys stay there, but I'm just going to jump just to refresh my memory. So of the cash of the governmental, well, pardon me, of the total cash, which was nearly 24 million, as I recall, 3 million of it in total for all governmental activity and business type activity is just over 3 million. There's a road impact fee that's collected that can only be used for improvements to roads. That's 413,000. Last year, that road impact fee restricted cash was 356,000. So that's gone up about 60 grand. The perpetual care is a peculiar way of saying money that's earmarked for the long-term care of the cemetery. Last year was at 472,000. This year, that restricted cash is 516,000. Library donations is at 89,000. Last year was about 87,000, so that's grown just a bit. Park impact fees, here's where we see quite a bit of growth. Last year there was restricted cash, 837,000. This year it's grown to 1,062,000. Now I think my conversation with Ryan, I anticipate that's going to be spent.
Yeah, we've got a skate park and some trails and some other, and then we've had some property purchase, and yeah, so we spend it and we grow, we spend, we grow.
Yeah. And I know this is being tracked in detail with various charts and spreadsheets by the staff there. But those monies need to be spent in 6 years. And so those are tracked carefully. Well, the impact fees do. And so those are tracked carefully and monitored so they don't have to be returned to the payers. Capital projects fund, there's some park impact fees there of 44,000. There's no change to that. The enterprise funds, the water fund, it is required to hold for debt covenants a sinking fund or a debt reserve fund. in case it runs into trouble. It's got some cash held in reserve to make loan payments, 44,000. That's up from 30,000 last year. There's water impact fees of 463,000. Last year, that was 440,000. So the impact fees has grown there. And then wastewater collection impact fees is 383,000. That's almost tripled from the prior year. Last year, the wastewater impact fees was approximately 144,000. So that one's grown significantly.
You'll note that that was the year we implemented. So, the year before this, we implemented it. So that was the first time we implemented. So it should
Impact
be,
fee from Logan.
so this is our collection impact fee rather than the Logan impact fee. That's the treatment.
Oh, right, okay, that's.
Yeah, the Logan impact fee gets forwarded to Logan City periodically throughout the year, I believe quarterly. And so I know the manager, I know Ryan and them are tracking that quite carefully, and so I'm not concerned about it. Just thought it would be interesting to highlight. Page 49 is now we're really moving. There's some good bedtime reading, you know, there in between here and page 49. So if you don't want to medicate, pull that out and dig in. So page 49, it's a budget to actual for the general fund only. You can see the budgeted final was 5.4 million in the revenues for the total revenues, and the actual was exceeded that by over $1 million. Actual revenues were 6.5 million. Total expenditures were 4,925,000 in the budget, and the actual expenditures was 4,952,000. So just by the skin of your teeth, you were over budget in a couple departments, and we'll highlight that in a second. And that's our only comment this year, is that a couple departments were in a very small way over budget. So so that's a pretty highlight. That's all the highlight I want to say there. The next few pages are URS schedules, Utah retirement schedules. The only thing I can really want to highlight there is that the stay right on that page. See in the 2022 column, there's a 97.5% coverage. That's what the state of Utah estimates that the Utah retirement benefit projected liability for all employees is covered with investments. So they projected the total payout for all employees, and in their estimates, they believe they've got it covered 97.5% with investments and savings. In the prior year was 108% coverage, and then they've modified their estimates and they've brought that back down. So it's basically break even. The URS is almost in the black, and so that should feel good for its employees and all the subdivisions of the state of Utah, every town, water district, that their URS benefits fully covered basically by the state of Utah. So jump to the final page. This is just in written format that where we summarize that two departments were just slightly over budget, the public health department and the administration department. And then we indicate in there that Utah code requires them to be within their legally adopted budget, and we consulted with Ryan as far as the management response goes. We indicated the city agrees, and we'll review the budget at year end and amend the budget as necessary. So I know Ryan was pretty bummed out. He tried to nail that budget, and I give him props for that. He was just barely missed it. So Ryan, do you want to add anything to that?
You know, I think you can do budgeting a lot of different ways. I think you'll find that our financial position is strong and a good net income. even with two departments, the fund itself, was within budget. But the two departments, did have those. I've always watched the end numbers. We expected all funds to be within budget. So there were a couple, but there was also corresponding revenue to offset. So you'll see that we still had a very healthy net change in position. And we do run a very tight budget. And on purpose, we run a tight budget to make sure that we're running within and keeping in mind those dollars that are entrusted to us. We do run a very tight budget, and you'll see that we came right really close within that budget, and by each fund we came within, but there were a couple that had a little extra expense in one and another. So, but yeah, so we do run a very tight budget, and we could have, as a state, we could have modified, and the modification would have easily been from our transfers to those two departments, but we could have netted that out. It was a little unforeseen because we were moving to the garbage and waste ones into their own enterprise fund, and as that finished at the end of the year, we had a couple unexpected tweaks to that conversion, but now garbage, waste, and recycle are all within a new fund by itself and not in the public health department. So anyway.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a perfect budget. So
No disagreement there.
congratulations, Ryan. Yes.
Yeah. Despite it being a finding, you pretty much nailed it. It's like 0.6%, the overage. So, and every fund was in the black. So great job.
Like I said, so many other cities don't have this kind of a clean audit, don't have this kind of detail is so precise. So kudos to you, Ryan.
Scarlett and Tyler are really an asset. That's probably some of your. We've talked about assets on paper, but you've got some great assets there in the offices.
We have incredible staff. They do incredible work, and they're committed, and they take care of our citizens. So we appreciate it.
Well, the books are clean. The audit was a great experience. Ryan's very kind to us, and they're all just so kind. We're treated so well. So it's a really neat experience, and we're glad to be able to do it. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for presenting, and you made a subject that could be terribly boring. None of us fell asleep, so that's good.
Terribly boring to just moderately boring.
Right. Well, you have to be a special person to look at all this stuff and to make sense of it and to make it work. So thank you so much for your work with us.
All right. Well, thanks for your patience. It took some time, but.
Okay.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
We need to accept this report, so I will take a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion that we accept the annual financial report, audit by the ACOG Miles and Associates, year end of June 30th, 2023.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm just grateful for expert staff, expert auditors, because I am not an expert.
I can balance my budgets at home. But along with that, I just want to make sure that we give Ryan and the staff the kudos that they deserve I think according to Mike, we're pretty good when you compare us to other cities and what's going on with them. So
I would compliment Mike and his firm that every year it has been done on time and within the state's required time frame. We haven't always had that, and but I would compliment Mike and his team. They are very conscious to make sure that they've completed the audit on time.
So noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Whew, thank you. Item number 3, resolution 10-2023, recertification of the Providence City Justice Court. Providence City Council will consider for adoption a resolution requesting the recertification of the Providence City Justice Court. Ryan and I have discussed this, and I'm going to turn it over to him to give you some statistics on it, and then we can discuss it.
Yeah, I've talked with Ty. Ty is our court clerk as well as being the recorder. So he deals a lot with that. We appreciate his being here. Recertification is a good time for us to make sure we've submitted all our documents. It requires us to submit the certification from this body that you're aware and what's going on. It also requires the certification from our attorney and from the judge. It's kind of a process. It does bring up it's done every 4 years. It brings up the question at some point to make sure that you want to continue a justice court. There is a process to do that, but at recertification time, it's obviously an opportunity for you to say, hey, do we like this? Is this a service to the public? Do we want to continue it on? So I would encourage that potential discussion. At this point, we probably need to do our recertification, and we would have a timing to proceed forward if you choose to not proceed with the justice court. Then it would require legislative action and notice to the state, and then those would go to the district court there in Logan. But the recertification process is really an acceptance of the resolution. Ty's drafted that. Ty, would you like to add anything at this point before I go into any other details?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. No, everything looks good. Like I said, like Ryan said, we're just, taking the necessary steps to comply with what the state requires. And if you look through the judge's affidavit, we're doing what we should be doing. Nothing has changed. If you look at the overall statistics over the last 5-10 years, you'll see that cases have gone down quite significantly. We do average about 40 to 45 cases a month. But we do good to keep it functioning, keep it going, and complying with all what the state requires.
Thanks, Ty.
So at that point, if we have cases, unless there's repeats, but at that point, we have about 500 to 600 cases a year. We have a population of about 9,000. So to kind of give you that idea of kind of number of people served, we do include in this, we also cover River Heights and Millville in our caseload. So we do receive a 50-50 split on revenue from the fees that come in. We split that 50% for them and 50% for us. That goes towards our costs, doesn't cover our costs. One other thing I just was, as far as talking about justice court, I pulled up my projection. So in here, just kind of giving an idea, starting in last year, the expenses exceeded the revenue of justice court the last 2 years by about 35,000. Before that, it was about 30,000. There for a few years, the state wasn't taking as much on the surcharge rates. They've continued to raise on some of those, and our caseload has been down. So as caseload goes down and the fines and surcharges from the state go up, we go deeper in the hole. So, anyway, our budget is projected to be about 58,000 a loss. And, you know, that's kind of rounded off and maybe a little bit worst case. But that's kind of where we project. So anyway, recertification probably is a thing the step we need to go through, but I would encourage at some point you have the discussion. Is this something you like? Does the public appreciate it? And if it's certainly a service, then I think we continue. If it's something the public doesn't appreciate, then we ought to at least discuss. So there you
So we're
go.
making it, we're going $58,000 in the hole this year.
That's expected, yes.
And
Just
Millville and River Heights don't go in the hole. They just,
Well, you'll see at the bottom here, we're expected to pay, Millville about $4,500 and River Heights about $1,300.
so it's not a whole lot,
So it's not a whole lot. So, but they
but
do,
they're still in the black.
they're still in the
We're
black.
in the red.
Right. So,
So I'm getting old, my eyes can't read anymore.
I'm sorry, I can
I can't read
recertify.
To be bigger.
And you're the youngest one here.
Can we go through the process before the 4 years, or are you stuck with the 4 years?
no, I think we could go through the process, but it is a 1 year notice period. And then we also need to look at the contract period of our judge, and we'd have to pay him through the end of his contract. And I don't remember, Ty, do you know how long Judge Funk's contract is? I don't
I
remember.
don't, I'll look into that though.
How long have we had this?
Just as Scarlett's
Providence? Yeah,
30 years.
Scarlett's been here.
okay, so we've never tried living without it yet.
Prior to that, we had a justice of the peace. And then in the, like, 1989, 1990, the state changed from justice of the peace to justice courts. And Providence City chose to do that. River Heights and Millville chose not to, and that's when we did an interlocal and took them on. The split that Ryan's talking about first, we get the fine in and we take the surcharge and get that to the state. And then the balance is what we split 50-50 with them. So they're not getting, we make sure the state gets everything before we start. But it's been around for a long time. Citations have gone down though significantly from what they used to be.
And our population goes up.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this isn't necessarily always Providence people. It's anybody that happens to do something wrong in Providence and gets a citation for it. So it is a service, but it's not one that is specific to a Providence resident. I mean, I might get a citation in Logan and then I would have to go to the Logan Justice Court, or somebody from Smithfield driving through might speed on 165 by Macy's and have to come to our justice court. So it's not resident driven
And
necessarily.
if we don't have this and someone gets a citation, they still just have to go, right?
They go to
The district, whether we
They
have it or
still
not.
go to a court or
So,
pay a fee. And this is not high crime, so these
These are
are,
criminal cases, these are,
yeah, I think maybe class C misdemeanor, class B, does class B run through Tyler?
Yes, class B, Cs and infractions. I'd say 80% of our cases are traffic. And then the rest would be possession charges, domestic violence, trespassing, and then animal violations, stuff like that.
and they don't have to come to this court, but they can come to this court, right?
Their citation would send them to here. But they could pay it without coming through the court. They could just pay the fee most of the time. They could just pay their fee.
Right.
So they wouldn't have to come to the court if they paid the fine.
But could they still go to Logan?
No,
I don't.
They have to come here.
I think
they
this
have
is
to
the-
pay in the appropriate court.
Okay.
So my question is, if we didn't have a Providence City Justice Court, what would that look like? Would we pay the district court for the people that chose to
go to
They
court.
would take the fees and fines, so we wouldn't have revenue, but we wouldn't have expenses. But the residents or whoever had that would go to district court to have that, and they would take both revenue and expenses. We still would cover indigent defense, but that's not included in the numbers.
So I don't see why. I mean, it's a matter of a few miles going to Logan instead of here. But it's a pretty big expense to the taxpayers to have the convenience of having it in Providence instead of Logan. So, but I don't see why we keep it if it's becoming such a big expense. So my stance would be to go ahead and let it go, like to terminate it now and not table it, not have further discussion, but just be done.
My understanding is we can't be done unless the judge's contract is done.
Well,
Is that
we would start, if you're done, we'd recommend maybe recertifying this and then start the process of eliminating. So at that point,
today. So we stay compliant with the state and everything by recertifying, but then we can start the ball rolling to discontinue if that's what you choose to do.
Okay, that's my vote.
So if we have an elimination of the justice court, how much money does that free up to put? Is it just a wash? There's no extra funds that we could shift into more law enforcement hours or?
no, it would be that. Those that I showed you, that would be kind of the idea is it would reduce our.
So
Or
we could just
expenses.
reallocate that 58 that we're eating into law enforcement hours.
Yeah, like $60,000. That's
About how many hours would that buy us?
Maybe half an officer?
Yeah, that's an officer.
Like half-time? Like 20 hours a week?
Maybe. I'd have to look. I haven't done that math, but I'd have to look. I mean,
Okay.
so. Anyway, I would look at actuals rather than budget if you're talking on it, because budget is kind of, maybe make sure we cover, our expectations, but it's fairly close. But I'd look at, these are our previous actuals, and that range, that 35,000 range. So if you're talking about it, I'd say that's pretty close with what we're expecting.
I would say that my experience talking to residents, they would like traffic infractions to feel more punitive than they do. And I certainly would want domestic violence things to feel more punitive than a district court, I think. So, I mean, I feel like it's a good idea to make a change.
And Ty, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think tonight it would be most appropriate to just act on this resolution, either whether you approve it or you don't, and then perhaps put on the agenda and actually have it as an agenda item. I think that's the way you would need to do if you want to start the discontinue process. What do you think, Ty?
Yeah, I believe so. As I was looking into it, so we are a class 4 justice court, which is the lowest justice court class. The judicial review, so when we request to kind of be terminated, disband, the process can take up to a year. However, because we're a class 4, we can request for a shorter time frame that it be terminated earlier, depending on, if we have all our ducks in a row. But yeah, in order to kind of stay compliant, we would want to probably at least approve this resolution so that we're complying with the state and there's no fines, penalties, or anything like that. I've looked into it. I haven't seen anything. I don't know what they can do. Again, they're mostly making all the money. I will say a couple years ago, the state created a justice court review committee or reform committee. So the idea there is the state plans on taking back all the justice courts, whether it be in 2 years, 5 or 10 years. They want to take control of the justice court. So they would, have their own clerks. They would have their own judges who would be required to have law degrees, but then they would have their own justice court buildings. So the majority of the talk that's been going on the last 2 years, it sounds like the state eventually will take over the justice court. It's just a matter of when.
I think official action tonight would be to adopt and do this recertification and finish that. But mine is direction. You want it on another agenda to start the process while we're talking about justice courts. That was kind of the thought. So
Well, we need to gather some more information. We don't have it all here. And that 58,000 does not include charging rent for them to come.
no, it doesn't.
And there's no building costs in that.
But we'd still, I mean, they use this space
Right.
on Mondays afternoon and that, so it's not used elsewhere, but you're right, it's.
I mean, if
easiest.
you wanted to apply that to it, to make it a true budget figure.
You certainly could do that. We have not done that.
Okay.
We don't know when Mr. Funk's contract.
I'd need to
ends and how
look
much
at
more
that.
we owe him.
Yeah, I would need to look to see when that is renewing,
He's
so.
around 50 a year. Is that about right?
I don't think it's quite that.
40 something?
Yeah,
So when I looked at the judge's affidavit, it said that Ty was doing 40 hours a week. Is that because he's available for court questions? 40 hours a week? I thought the court's not open 40 hours a week.
it's available. He's
Okay,
available for
For questions
questions.
and things, okay.
And then
Perfect.
people take time from the front desk to come in and pay their fines when they come in to pay. So there are some hidden costs in there that are probably not shown.
There are, but not, maybe not incremental ones that would say, we'll still have somebody at the front desk whether they're paying that fine or not, or we'll still have the building if it. So, yeah, but you could certainly allocate those costs if you went that way.
Yeah.
If the state was on a reimbursement method, we'd certainly do that.
That would be good, I think.
So anyway, I just wanted to have kind of that feedback if that's where you wanna go, so. Sounds like you want us to investigate maybe.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then on this item.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 10-2023, the recertification of the Providence City Justice Court. With another discussion in the future.
Okay, so I've got a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our last item, number 4, is ordinance 06-2023 PCC subdivision regulations amendments. Providence City Council will review, discuss, and may take action on an ordinance amending the city's subdivision regulations per new state code. Planning Commission held a public hearing on November 8th and motioned to recommend that the council adopt the amendments. This has had public hearings. It's had discussion ad nauseum by our expert Planning Commission. And you've had an opportunity hopefully to look at that. I'm gonna give Ryan and Scarlett as a backup to give us information. I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on this because it's been up in front of everybody forever, but
At this point, the biggest issue, and I'll let Scarlett have the last word on it, but the biggest issue, if you go through, and if you have gone through, or anybody that future goes through, on the comments, it will indicate the code of where that matches state code. Most of this is in relation to matching to the new state code. That code is required to be adopted by February 1st. The Planning Commission, like you mentioned, has gone through that. Some of the major highlights are concept plans can no longer be mandatory. The final plat has an administrative process, so that moves from Planning Commission to our administrative land use committee, which is made up of Scarlett, Rob, and our city engineer. There is, planning commission had one specific, item. There was a loophole, there was an exception, I should call it. There was an exception on, sidewalks. For 4 roads, there were exception for 4 roads, Canyon Road, Grandview, 400 East and Foothill. That didn't require, when they were initially developed, they didn't require curb gutter sidewalk. Most of that's been developed at this point, but the planning commission, did recommend adding the removal of that, exception, while they were looking through. I would say that is, by and large, I would say a 90% review. You sent it out, and had no other public comment since. And so our recommendation is to approve this. If you need time, we do have time on the December meeting if you needed it, but we would need to adopt by the January meeting. So if there are small changes that need to be made, certainly we could work on that. But at this point, it has gone through, as the mayor said, very detailed on both public hearing and planning commission. So anyway, if there's any questions, anything you wanted to summarize and add to that?
No.
Good.
We just went through the state code and, much of it is just kind of reorganized. In our previous code, as we often do with codes, rather than rewrite a whole section, if we come across something we need to change, we just kind of tack it on at a convenient place. So some of our, as you went down our checklists and things like that, it kind of skipped around for like a design engineer. So I didn't add any new steps, but I tried to take those requirements and kind of group them. That's why it looks like a complete rewrite. It really wasn't a complete rewrite. We did not have as much to have to change as many other communities because we had taken city council out of the subdivision process many years ago. So our biggest changes really, as Ryan said, is that the planning commission won't be involved at the final plat stage anymore. And we cannot require a concept plan. However, if a developer wants to do a concept plan, we certainly can go through that concept process, but we just can't require it. So the concepts probably won't go away, I don't think. Because as I've talked to developers, even though they don't want to have to do it, many of them said, but we still want to come in with a concept and talk first. And so I think we'll still get that opportunity before it really goes to preliminary, but we just can't require that opportunity anymore. Those are the biggest changes.
So what you're telling us is you reorganized the drawer.
Pretty much.
Cleaned it up. We cleaned the drawer.
Right.
Yeah.
And
You did a great job.
as all code, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
As we clean up and we start doing the new steps, we might be back with some tweaks. So.
Great. Well, it's always good when we take a look at things and make sure that we're on top of them. So thank you. I will entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance 06/2023 PCC subdivision regulation amendments.
Okay, have a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
Got a second from Josh. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Are you
Okay.
kidding? No discussion?
That was awesome.
Planning commission did their job, they did a good job.
They did a good job and we trust them
A
to come to us
mistake
with
made all the rules.
recommendations. Yeah. It was a no-brainer. We had to do it. Okay. So, with that, we don't have any agreements, contracts, or bid awards, plans or other business, study items. We have staff reports. So Ty, you want to give us your report?
Yeah, just real quickly, election day next Tuesday.
Yes, tell us about your baby, Ty.
His name is Finley.
Oh, I love
He was born last Thursday at 6 in the morning. 6 pounds, 14 ounces, 21 inches, doing good.
Good.
Busy.
He's your third, right?
Yes, he's our third, so we're outnumbered and trying to figure out how to juggle it all.
No, you're old pros.
And you only have 2 hands and you've got 3 kids, so that might be a problem.
Yep. Yeah.
And Ty, I want to check with you in 20 years. Ty, I want to check with you in 20 years and see if you still remember those stats for weight and length.
I don't remember my
I,
daughters or my son
Those
now.
don't even
so-
have any meaning to me anymore. I've got no idea what that means.
Yeah.
No, they're doing, fathers are doing good to remember birthdays, so we can only keep you on that. Okay, Ty, go ahead with your report.
Yeah, election day next Tuesday. The candidates have all got their financial declarations in, so we're looking good. I haven't heard from the county on the process on that day, what they're going to do. Let's see. But because we were delayed 2 weeks, we will need to have a meeting before the 6th of December to certify the election. Having talked with the mayor and Ryan, it sounds like you guys want to have a meeting on Tuesday, December 5th to do so. We won't be actually having the results from the county until that Friday, the 1st. So we got a very short turnaround. We got to certify it that Tuesday, and I got to get it sent out that following Wednesday. But that's all I got.
Okay, we're on it. So our next council meeting will not be mid-December. It will be Tuesday, December 5th. So that's different than we normally do. So if you'll get that on your calendars so that we make sure we're meeting, and we'll of course notice everything
And we'll move our other discussion ones so that we don't have the 20th. We'll just move those to the 5th and have that way.
it'll be a regular meeting.
Right, yeah, it'll be a regular meeting. So, that way right before Christmas, unless people want to have time off, they certainly can, so.
Good. Great. Thanks, Ty. Scarlett?
I'm just gonna use this one. I just wanna say thank you. It's November and it's a good time to say thank you for everything, but thank you, to everyone that has the council. You're very supportive and it's very appreciative. The support is really appreciated. And the staff, they do recognize when the council shows appreciation. They also kind of see it sometimes when they feel like, gosh, I'm trying really hard and I'm failing anyway, but we do really appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you for the Thanksgiving gift. That's very kind of you and Ryan to budget for that and give that extra little bounce for grocery money during this month. We are, now that the subdivision ordinance is out of the way, which is a good relief. I'm working on and with Ryan, and we're going to try and remedy some of the concerns that the state had, or well, with the reviewers had with our moderate income housing report. So we'll try and have that ready for them in the next couple of weeks here. We actually have 90 days to get that done in. So but we will work back and forth with them to do the best we can to achieve that goal. We are also working with the Planning Commission we're looking at several different codes in the zoning ordinance, the zoning regulations that we've had kind of put on hold for a while to get some of this other time sensitive things done. And so we're working on that in code compliance and stormwater. Colton's been out keeping an eye on the ponds along with the guys in Public Works. We've worked really hard making phone calls, putting notices on cars, sending out Megan's done a good job of sending out and letting, the public know that we've changed our, winter parking hours. I don't know how many of them are actually paying attention, but we are
Well, I got a text down
reaching
in-
out to people.
So,
So,
Complaint.
no, to remind me,
Oh.
not to park my car on the.
yeah, and then we do have, our final two recreational activities, the holiday lighting contest. I don't know if we'll have anybody nominated or not, so we'll see how that goes, but that is coming up. If you wanna nominate a neighbor or a friend or just a house that you don't even know who it is, but you would think it's really cool, you can do that this year. And then, Shayla's working with, several of the financial institutions, 3 different ones to come in and help judge those, and they generally give a little bit of a gift for winning that. So that's coming up, in December. And then we've also got, it's a little later than usual because of the December starting on a Friday, but the first Thursday in December will be the Christmas tree lighting and the visit with Santa Claus. We should have the, ornaments ready for, sale for those that want to donate. They'll purchase those ornaments as a donation, and that will go to the family place. We split this year and did the little lambs, for the car show, and we're doing family place for the ornament sale. So hopefully people will be very supportive of that and, purchase those or donate those, and then, come and decorate the tree that night. And Santa will be there for visiting, and I think there's some music planned and some other fun things, so we'll just cross our fingers on the weather, and I'm sure it will be a very fun night. And I want to say to all of you to have a very, very nice holiday weekend next weekend of Thanksgiving. And again, thank you for all of your support. It's very appreciated.
Thank you.
Questions?
We have 600 cookies for the
Santa?
Santa, so hopefully we won't run out in 120 donuts, so.
We'll see, won't we? Give them a stamp for their hand, just.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Rob?
Thankfully, weather has played nice this last month, so we're catching up on some projects that we're behind, and they're still behind, but we're getting through them. And the water aspect of some of these projects, we knew were gonna be difficult, and they've proven to be very difficult, but Cherrywood subdivision's finally, all drinking through new pipelines, and it took a little effort to get there, but that project's kind of wrapping up. There's still behind schedule, but we're getting there, so that's good.
And only one body.
Only one.
Right?
That's true. Sure. There was only one, and there was no major red
That's all we
flags
found.
that were found.
That's all we
so.
found.
The well drilling project, I guess for an update on that, it's not a great update because the well drill rig itself ran into massive, expensive, time-consuming mechanical failure. So that's been on hold while they rebuild their rig up on the hill. So that's been delayed.
Is that,
What do we do about the noise
is
ordinance?
that their, like, their
Expense.
cost, their expense, their
Yeah.
machinery,
They're working diligently to fix it because it is all on them.
Yeah, they don't pass it to us.
So unfortunately, that's being delayed, and weather could cause that to be a little bit difficult to get up and down from that site if weather pounds on them, but it is what it is, because.
What do we do about the noise ordinance? Ryan, because we did a special thing.
We did, that will still be in place when they have to come back and actually get the rig coming up. They'll have the couple of days there that they'll need to do an all-night process. They haven't used those. I think they were up 1 or 2 nights, but ultimately they got 200
And it just about down to the bedrock before the drill rig broke down again, so.
So they have to start over again then? If it broke?
No, they've got gentleman that's spending a lot of time up there, working on things that kind of keep the hole from
They've got a place.
collapsing. They've got some different types of mud and whatnot that they're still putting in the hole to maintain the hole. And since
Got a finger on the hole.
There's a guy down there in the
So-
hole.
So.
It's
so
like
will
the pipe we had on
Like
the-
when they've got it fixed, will the weather, like if it's frozen, will they have to wait till spring?
no, they can drill year round.
So it doesn't
pretty much
matter,
anywhere.
once they have it fixed, they should be able to
They
finish
should
the
be able
project.
to accomplish this goal once their rig's up and running again this
Okay.
spring.
Might have to use their snowshoes to get up there.
And
Yeah,
sleds.
dog sled.
Yep. And other than that, most of our projects just have a whole lot of little punch lists here and there for probably some spring cleanup when it comes to sprinklers and sod and things like that we'll work on in the spring, but our new shop is all but complete. It's got a couple little plumbing type issues and it's just about habitable. So that's finally about complete. And we're working on leaves. Grateful that we're not plowing snow yet, but usually our leaf detail goes right to the very day of the first snowstorm, so. That's kind of
How long
what
do you
switches
keep, how
gears.
long do you pick up bags? Till it's
Till
time to
till
plow?
they're buried in snow.
Okay.
Does it seem like the leaves are falling later this year?
It does.
They're holding on.
I
I
agree
feel
with that.
like,
Well, last year we
Is
had a
that-
snowstorm that took them.
Yeah, October 10th
Took
helped
the
wipe it
limbs
out.
out.
yeah, it just feels like, I'm like, are they gonna fall? Okay,
We got
I
lots
still
of
got some
green.
green leaves on.
You can go out and pull them off.
we mowed our lawn yesterday and it had grown.
Mhm. Yeah, it's kind of a delayed winter and I'm grateful for that.
So don't mess it up is what you're saying.
Well, me too, I'm grateful.
Other than, like Scarlett said, I appreciate your support and everything's going well. Any questions in the outskirts that you want to share with me or ask? I'm willing to.
Just comments
Work on
to
them.
say thank you, tell your guys thank you.
That's a great job.
Okay,
You've got a good crew.
we do. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll turn over right now.
Okay, Ryan.
Right. Just a few updates. The lift station, grant, that's the one that, Mayor talked about. It is a grant up to 600,000. We expect maybe $700,000, $750 in total cost. So it's an 80% grant. So, anyway, appreciate the mayor for being able to have ears and eyes out there that when something came up, she came back and said, hey, I heard about this. In fact, she didn't even make it all the way back from Salt Lake. She called me and said, hey, Ryan, I heard about this. Hey, look. So it has been a very good joint effort and I appreciate, her helping that so anyway, we have moved to our second phase in the, water and land conservation grant. That's the one we talked about before. We're finally getting to the National Park Service part of that. So we're hoping to do that over the next month and then get it back and see if we can't get some money out of it, in next year. So, things are progressing there, which is good. Met with the engineers today on design and working on application for a new round of, a new application for the, Safe Routes to School application, for infilling of more sidewalks. And then for the design of the grant we already have. So, we're working on that. On that note, we,
Can I ask where you're looking to infill?
yes, you certainly can.
I'm curious.
Second West, I think. I'll have to
Oh,
look
can
at
we
it again.
do it there? That is county.
Oh, no, not Second West. Cause we have First East that we're working on. So it might be Second East, it might have been the other way. So I think there's some
that's
that's
we
Second
were
East.
toggling back and forth.
Yeah. So I think it's Second East that we're looking at this point. But one of them is the trail to connect Edgewood to, First East, and that is a large piece, and that's been part of our master plan. To report on that one. At the last council meeting, after a closed session, you approved the, my ability to proceed ahead as you had directed in that, closed session, and had given me a, threshold to work with and to negotiate with. I report back that we've been successful on purchasing those. So the purchase for the two northern ones, at the time, the discussion was 110. We offered 70. You had authorized up to 82. 82. I have to look at that number. We've settled on 80,000 plus some closing costs, so we're within that number and successful there. So we have proceeded. Mayor signed those, but I wanted to make sure you were aware of that has progressed. The other one authorized to go back and offer to accept the property without a cash offer. We had discussed the potential of up to 10,000. We have agreed that we would, because of the back taxes they owe, so that they're not netting much cash, if at all.
So it's the unpaid taxes.
Unpaid
not
taxes, right?
the-
So, right, the unpaid taxes. So we've offered 10, they've accepted 10 for, that was 71 was the list valuation. So at that point, we're at 10,000 for that. And that will cover mostly the taxes. So that's I think that fits into the really no cash offer to them. Our cash offer will be to release it from there. If we had bought it at nothing and accepted that lien, we'd still have to pay taxes. So it's just a method at which that occurred.
Can I get some mountain goats now?
Yes,
City mountain goats?
yes, if you have a lead on those, I think we have a spot.
I have a person.
Perfect. My daughter did a goats in the fair, so maybe after the fair, we could,
Okay,
some
sorry.
goats.
get some goats. So that's a great one. The city I had before, we did rent goats, and we did use them around our water tank. Yeah, absolutely. So I thought your question was serious, so I'm following right along.
I joke, but it's.
Were you serious?
Serious and joking, yeah.
So certainly we could,
Same time.
yes, at that point, and wouldn't be the first time I've,
You're gonna start
Rented
milking
goats.
goats?
Has city
I'll
goats.
have a new assignment then and go.
so anyway, there you go.
Mosquitoes to go.
And the Nebuchadnezzar children are the goat keepers of the
Herders,
city.
Goat herders, yeah, that's great.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, so anyway, fibers, we talked, that we're making progress every day. We're getting more sign up and coming on. There has been a lot of great success there. We have had some hiccups in different areas, with a few pieces of damage, and, we'll have to work through that. So as a budget one, this is one I probably will need to talk about budget at some point on it. But we're going to have damage claims that will come into us from Strata that they will have fixed, but were caused by somebody else. The blue stake laws allow us to bill that person for it. But we don't have specifically in our budget an expense item for paying those expenses, nor a budget for collecting them, but we'll need to do both. So at some point, we'll flush that out as it comes. And so that will be something we're learning as we go into this. There has been some, I think there's 7 or 8 total damage claims that we've had, and we'll turn around, we'll pay Strata for those under our operating contract, and then we'll bill those to the damager. So anyway, just so that you're aware that that's kind of a piece coming up, so I just give you that.
That's one of those advantages to making a utility too. Cause in that blue stakes law. It comes up and we can charge the people for damaging.
Anyway,
So with the main line being done in the next week, or do we think we'll be able to get all the mastic done before the winter?
that is the plan. That's the plan. We'll see how that works out. They certainly want to. Strata and SEI both. SEI is a subcontractor to Strata. They both certainly are wanting to get all that done, so that they can be out of the streets. And I'm certainly hoping that all the cones are out of the streets. That's my
If
goal.
not, the plow will take them out.
They'll move them out some way or another. And then we'll be able to test whether that mastic sticks, and we'll have next year that if it doesn't, and we'll have a warranty period and they'll be able to fix that. So we'll certainly like to test it out.
All right, we need a few more days of good weather.
Well, today
A few
was-
more days of good weather is always
Today was
beneficial.
so nice.
Trails, our bike lanes and the trail through Rollinger Park. The punch list, most of the punch list item should have been completed today. So that was identified as the number one issue in our park trail and recreation master plan. It took a long time to get there. We got it planned, it designed, largely funded by grant, and then we're able to implement. And on that, we went through 5 different engineers to touch those in one way or another. And so anyway, that is a kind of an interesting one, but achieved. You know, you look back, if you look back over this year and the prior couple of years, those master plans that you worked on and adopted and spent all that effort and time on, now is the time that those are coming to fruition. We're starting to see it, and you'll see how important master plans are. That as they're adopted, they give us a way forward, and public can see that coming. And so anyway, kudos for you to achieve some of those and to see the fruits of that labor at this point. So whether it's good or bad, you know, that'll be the public to decide some of those, but at this point, that is the fruit of the labor coming about. So
But I'll tell you, from a perspective of talking to citizens, it's been so nice to point to those master plans and say, I realize that you want us to do this, but we've got the master plan. It's been commented on, it's been approved, and these are our marching orders, so that's what we're doing. It has been very helpful for me as I talk to people.
and we can plan grant wise, and we can get grants, and we can do things. And we look at the grant for the skate park and for the land conservation and the trails, and we save a tremendous amount of money by knowing what we want to do 5 years in the future and planning for that and finding a grant. And I mean, the lift station, we knew about it, we work on it, we have a plan. Having those, it will save the city millions by having a set plan of where we're going. And you can see that in our financials, that it will show itself.
What's the grant that we're gonna be working on with the COG? The latest one. You went to it's coming up.
They have another one that will be, we've submitted one for TAP. TIF. We have one submitted for TIF on First North. There's TAP, there's CMAC, there's several, all kinds of initials. So, but yes.
Like, remind me again, what does that stand for?
So, yeah, we have one, transportation alternative, the transportation corridor, we're looking at that with the county. You know, we have several that
So
we're,
great opportunities for
Oh.
it, just because we've got it on our plan.
but now that we have those plans in place, and we can go out, we can get those funds to offset that. And then we're not chasing what the best project or what the public is outcrying today for. We can plan for them, but still, as we get into budget, if there's priorities that you hear in the public, we want to prioritize those, and we can, and we do. But larger projects and having that is a big focus, and a very good. It's a lot easier to do my job with good focus and direction and saying, hey, I've got the plan, and here's where it is. So pickleball or skate park, we've got another design. They're still playing with designs, but expecting that in the spring. They just have too many projects to finish off in the fall, so we'll come back in the spring, early summer to start working there, so. And then the pickleball courts, if you have been over and if you walked the trail, if you haven't walked the trail, it's a good walk. It's just barely under a mile. And I took my wife on it, and it is probably the social media items that we have had interest in. It is top by 100%, almost. We had almost 8,000 interactions, views, or statistics of that. Talking about the pickleball, that was around 5. So, you know, the trail is by far one of the most popular things going around on our social media and talked about. So if you haven't walked it, highly encourage just give it a try. So we intend to plow it during the winter, and it'll be a year-round safe spot for people to utilize. So anyway, pickleball courts are right there on the trail, or just off the trail. We've got the cement in, the exterior fencing done, or fence posts in, and they were working on some more fencing there today. And we won't be able to finish the painting and the surface course until spring. So anyway, lots of things going on. We have a wonderful staff. We had a staff luncheon today. I will reiterate, Scarlett and Rob, we certainly appreciate your support. Certainly appreciate the wonderful job you are doing and the wonderful job you'll let us do. And we are certainly grateful for it. So it's a wonderful place to work. And I'm certainly grateful for each one of you, and let me continue. So anyway, if there's something I can do, please let me know. Any questions?
We're so glad you do the budget.
You do a great job.
Yes, you do.
And all the things.
Thank you. Okay, just to reiterate again, Tuesday, December 5th will be our next council meeting, 6 o'clock.
And our only December meeting.
And only December meeting.
Okay.
So, it'll be kind of a packed agenda, but the number one thing that we're doing on that night is that we have to certify the election results in Providence. So that's what we're doing on the 5th, but it works out really well because it's December, so.
Mayor, what did you say that day was again? That's standard.
Tuesday, December 5th will be our next council meeting, and that will be the only council meeting in December.
Okay, so it's a week earlier, is that right?
It's gonna have 2 weeks, yeah,
It's earlier, okay.
and it's on a Tuesday, so.
Okay.
Get it on your calendar, it's your last meeting.
I know, it's book club at 8 o'clock, so maybe hopefully have a short meeting, so we can get the book club, so.
Okay, we'll note these, we'll note that.
It's always the first Tuesday of the month at 8 o'clock, so.
Okay, so noted. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Josh?
I said aye.